Well, Sir Greytex the Dumbfuck has made a couple of videos, pretty irritating. Okay, so in the first one, again, he defends the no voting thing, and he claims that somehow it's been demonstrated somewhere that apathy with voting changes systems, and they acquire instant runoff voting or some other mechanism to improve the system because the system responds to that apathy. I didn't see any documentation defending that nonsense. By its very nature, apathy does shit. Okay, so then he tries to bend the conversation a little bit, at least using the word organization for a change. And yeah, that's what people have to do, but they might as well do both. They might as well do them in parallel. Use the system, defend your existence with the system. I mean, don't vote for Adolf Hitler if you can fucking avoid it. Don't get him elected by your apathy if you can avoid it, and also fight for change in the system. Extort the system with your numbers, and you don't do that just by not voting. You do that by fucking organizing. Alright, so I'm moving on to the second stupid fucking video. We'll play clips from this one, but just clips, because some of what he says is just boring tripe. Well, all of it's boring tripe, but some of it's more pointed boring tripe.
That are honest and unbiased. I'm thinking what he really means is atheists ought to be that way, not they are that way. They ought to be.
Yeah, whatever. So again, so he spends the beginning of this video just arguing the point that somehow there's it's the same thing. Okay, the theist and the atheist are any that have definitive beliefs, definitive definitions of reality in their head, are the same animal. That they don't have, that neither has more credibility or more right to assert those beliefs. It's just idiotic. I mean, certainly when I talked on this subject, I gave every impression that I was talking in generalities. And generally speaking, it can be stated that obviously atheists are by nature more skeptical, that we could say at minimum, that they do at least analyze and judge, where the most moronic theists just accept because somebody puts the book next to them in their little cribs. It becomes their ideology without any scrutiny, without any skepticism, without any rational apprehension about accepting bullshit that is hundreds, if not thousands of years old. But anyway, it's an idiotic argument. People, there are beliefs that have more credibility than other beliefs. That's just a reasonable declaration of a truth. Saying I hear voices in my head, okay, that's a giveaway right there. Okay, the voices in your fucking head are not a source of wisdom or knowledge. We know that by experience. Usually if the dog is talking to you, well, you're probably not hearing the truth. We can isolate reasonable sources of understanding and unreasonable sources of understanding. We can know the fucking difference. So it's just bullshit to throw one in the same category as the other.
Doing the same for their book and for other books, whether it's positive or negative. You get atheists doing it. Am I supposed to believe that that Muslim, that Christian, and that atheist are any different from each other?
Okay, so he's basically saying that, in his comments, people post, quotes from books. Until he go on to talk about Ayn Rand and, people posting comments from her books even, or quotes. And he's saying that's all the same thing. Well, it's not the same thing. I mean, as much as I think Ayn Rand is full of shit, at least it's an author that is defending a philosophy with some sort of argument. There's no argument in the fucking Holy Bible. There's no argument in the Quran. Okay, it's a definitive statement. Our God is God. Believe it or I will kill you. All right, period. There's no rationale. There's no logical reason why I should believe these assholes even fucking existed, let alone knew the fucking truth. There's no explanation for, well, why didn't God give them penicillin 2,000 years ago? What the fuck is wrong with God? Why didn't he at least tell them how to build an outhouse? All right? I mean, we're not giving no logic whatsoever. So at least if somebody is posting bullshit from Ayn Rand, at least it's a book that attempts to defend itself. It doesn't run away from that obligation. So right there, there's a credibility difference. One has more credibility than the other. At least one is a resource that there'll be some effort made to logically and intellectually defend the bullshit they're saying.
Is there any difference between those four people, really? Are we really considering that their ideologies somehow makes a distinction between their behaviour and their actions? I would...
Yeah, well, yeah, there is. Yes, there are distinctions, and they're obvious distinctions. A 2,000-year-old book is going to have it's got to live up to a different standard of credibility than a book being written by somebody today. Because somebody today, you can scrutinize, you can judge their credibility. We can't judge the credibility of that bullshit book. All right? It can only be accepted by some notion of irrational faith. All right? That's it. That's all there is. There's irrational faith. And that's a huge fucking difference.
Ideology is too arbitrary and a thing to consider when trying to get to the bottom of this human game of interaction.
Yeah, why don't you're saying it's a human game of interaction. That's where the whole thing falls apart. I'm saying it's an effort to define fucking reality. So we obviously have a different fucking objective. I don't give a fuck about interacting with human beings. I give a fuck, to the extent that it means anything beyond the personal bullshit. The effort is the more meaningful thing is to find reality and to give it to the fucking human race in some way they can consume. So I will agree that you have to interact with humans for them to consume it, but you certainly have to you have to create the meal for them to eat first. There's no point in being able to shove food down their mouth, get all closey and lovey-dovey with them so you can shove anything you want in their goddamn face if what you are making, if the food you are feeding them is bullshit, or worse, poisonous. And I would argue that your bullshit is poisonous. You say you are an atheist, okay? That just means you are anti-dogmatic God, but you still have your fucking God. You still have your notions of reality that are based on nothing but your subjective impulse, your subjective impression. You have no way to logically defend the theism. You won't even literally articulate.
I am an atheist. People will still comment, "You dirty theist scum." Okay? I made the video, Zeitgeist is bullshit, where I say...
Yeah, well, okay, look, you're going to get that label because there's two things I'll get to at the end of your video, but I'll get to them now. There's two things right at the end of your video you show some reverence for. The first one is somehow our human right to reproduce, our human right to have, to extend the parasites into the future, as if it's some sort of accomplishment. All right, obviously you have deified or rewarded the natural concept that somehow a DNA molecule should be running the fucking world, that its ambition to take over the world somehow has legitimacy and meaning. So you have obvious reverence, okay, for what the system is now. The tradition of nature, you seem to have reverence for that, okay? That's what you espouse and what you speak and what you talk about. And then when you talk with contempt about something like virtual reality, you're obviously demonstrating some sort of, well, why would that be contemptuous? Why would that be something to wet our panties over if we're an atheist? It's an environment where consciousness can be indulged. So why the fuck not? And then even the idea that you put this. Well, we'll get to that later. So moving on.
Ideology to me means zero in comparison to this human game of interaction. It means nothing.
And yeah, well, that's the magic words, isn't it? You think ideas are meaningless, and somehow the bullshit that is us, our need for affection or our need to be patted on the back or some other bullshit is where the game is played. No, the game is played in ideology. Because ideology tells us what makes fucking goddamn sense in this world, what we should be embracing, what we should be getting caught up in, what kind of bullshit we should be addicted to.